This is our reading today, 2 Samuel chapter 1. It's a strange first verse in chapter 1 because it's talking about the death of Saul, and then it tells us a story how David heard about the death of Saul. So because I want to be faithful to the word of God, I'm going to read it from the beginning, and it's chapter 1 of 2 Samuel. Now it came about after the death of Saul, when David had returned from the slaughter of the Amalekites, that David remained 2 days in Ziklag. On the third day, behold, a man came out of the camp from Saul, with his clothes torn and dust on his head. That's the way they mourned in those days for somebody who died. And it came about when he came to David, that he fell to the ground and prostrated himself. Then David said to him, "From where do you come?" And he said to him, "I have escaped from the camp of Israel." David said to him, "How did things go? Please tell me." And he said, "The people have fled from the battle, and also many of the people have fallen and are dead. And Saul and Jonathan his son are dead also." So David said to the young man who told him, "How do you know that Saul and his son Jonathan are dead?" The young man who had told him said, "By chance I happened to be on Mount Gilboa, and behold, Saul was leaning on his spear, and behold, the chariots and the horsemen pursued him closely. When he looked behind him, he saw me and called me, and I said, 'Here I am.' And he said to me, 'Who are you?' And I answered him, 'I am an Amalekite.' Then he said to me, 'Please stand beside me and kill me, for agony has seized me because my life still lingers in me.' So I stood beside him and killed him, because I knew that he could not live after he had fallen. And I took the crown which was on his head, and the bracelet which was on his arm, and I brought them to my Lord." Then David took hold of his clothes and tore them, and so also did all the men who were with him. They mourned and wept and fasted until evening, for Saul and his son Jonathan, and for the people of the Lord and the house of Israel, because they had fallen by the sword. David said to the young man who told him, "Where are you from?" And he answered, "I am the son of an alien, an Amalekite." Then David said to him, "How is it you are not afraid to stretch out your hand to destroy the Lord's anointed?" And David called one of the young men and said, "Go cut him down." So he struck him, and he died. David said to him, "Your blood is on your head, for your mouth has testified against you, saying, 'I have killed the Lord's anointed.'" Then David chanted with this lament over Saul and Jonathan his son, and he told them to teach the sons of Judah the song of the bow. "Behold, it is written in the book of Ishar, 'Your beauty, O Israel, is slain on your high places. How have the mighty fallen!' Tell it not to Gath, proclaim it not in the streets of Ashkelon, or the daughters of the Philistines will rejoice. The daughters of the uncircumcised will exult. O mountains of Gilboa, let not dew or rain be on you, nor fields of offerings, for there the shield of the mighty was defiled, the shield of Saul, not anointed with oil, from the blood of the slain, from the fat of the mighty. The bow of Jonathan did not turn back, and the sword of Saul did not return empty. Saul and Jonathan, beloved and pleasant in their life, and in their death they were not parted. They were swifter than eagles, they were stronger than lions. O daughters of Israel, weep over Saul, who clothed you luxuriously in scarlet, who put ornaments of gold on your apparel. How have the mighty fallen in the midst of the battle! Jonathan is slain on your high places. I am distressed for you, my brother Jonathan. You have been very pleasant to me. Your love to me was more wonderful than the love of women. How have the mighty fallen, and the weapons of war perished!" What a sad lament that was. David, even though he was anointed to be king, and Saul, the Lord had taken the kingship away from Saul, David always followed King Saul, and he wouldn't touch the God's anointed. He still felt Saul was God's anointed. And so even when Saul wanted to kill David, David still sought to be obedient to him. And if you want to know the full story of authority and submission of the three kings, the book is called Three Kings, and it's all about Saul, David, and Solomon. And it's a very good book of how to be submissive to authorities, even if authorities are not being obedient to God. Because you see, the trouble is people think we have to follow personalities. We do not. If you follow personalities, you will find yourself following one person and then giving up on that person because their personality changes or you don't like them anymore. It's the same with presidents. We don't follow the personality of the president. We follow the position of president. In the same way, David followed the position of King Saul, even though Saul was being evil toward him, and he had an evil spirit. But David wanted to submit to him and submit to the position. Jonathan was his buddy. Even Jonathan realized what David was doing. And really, Jonathan was going to be king after Saul. But God said, no, I want David, and he anointed David king. And Jonathan died with his daddy right on there. He went to war with Dad, and they both died. Unfortunately, someone had to finish him off, which is so sad. And for that reason, David had him killed, because he didn't accept the fact that he was killing God's anointed. Very sad story. And I just want you to know that David was a mighty man of God, yes. A friend of God, yes. But he had sinned, and with Bathsheba, and he had murdered. And so even though he was sinner, he, as we find out in Psalm 51, we see that he repented, especially when Nathan the prophet came to him and said, you are that man. So I want you to know that David realized that he had been anointed, but he wasn't going to dethrone Saul. He waited for Saul to die. Then he knew that he was now king. It's a good story. Three Kings, that's what it's called. And it's all about submission and authority, not to personalities, but to the position that God has placed, whether it be a pastor, a leader, an employer, or even a president. So do consider these things and follow the position, not the personality. God bless you.